Okay, so what to do when you're not in tune with your cycle, right? So you're coming on your charting practice and you are realizing, okay, this month either I had a split peak in my cycle, or I'm realizing that I'm supposed to be ovulating, but I feel really low in energy and I'm not creative, and my workouts are becoming really hard for me, like all these things that go against what we already know what these inner seasons are supposed to feel like, right? Well, first and foremost, I want you to go back into your chart and I want you to notice, since the time that you were bleeding, what were the things that have stuck out to you that perhaps were not in alignment to what you should have been doing or acting like, right? For example, when I noticed that my ovulation day changes drastically, or when I'm not completely in tune with the cycle that I'm in or the season that I'm in, whenever I go back, I always catch either some kind of huge cosmic gateway, some kind of emotional or mental stressor that happened in my life, or I usually catch myself overexerting. That's a big one. Like, I thought to be inspired action, but what I was actually doing is just going full throttle as if I was in summer. So things like this, where you can catch yourself and saying, oh, I was not aligned to my inner season there. So I overwhelmed my body, I overstrained the mental, physical, spiritual body, and now I'm having repercussions. So first and foremost, I want you to go back into your charting cycle and figure out what was out of alignment. What did you do? What behavior happened? Did you not sleep enough? Did you change your diet? Did you have more stress at work or at home? And we have to be really clear about what stress actually means, right? Because in my mind before, I always thought stress is just from work or from family stuff. And it turns out to be, the deeper I go into this work, the more I realize stress is very, very subtle. I mean, if I have a bad night's sleep, or I just experience like really deep activations, or my food patterns are really thrown off, that creates a lot of stress in my body. Right now, that doesn't mean that you're going to experience that, but this is what I have found to be true through my charting practice. Like, these are the things that have thrown off my cycle time and time again, where I realize, oh, I really need to be on top of this when these things happen, right? So what you may think of as stress is not necessarily what is causing stress to your body, because what causes stress to our body is going to affect our cycles. It's going to affect our hormones. So you have to become really open and receptive to the fact that you don't actually know what's causing stress in your body. You don't. You have to be open to learning what your body responds to in regards to stress, okay? So that's first and foremost. Just go back into your charting practice, figure out what has happened, what has been off keel, and just take note of that for a few cycles and notice, is that throwing off your hormones? Is that throwing off your cycle? Now, I want to give you 3 tips that I have found to be really powerful and have really shifted my entire approach to every cycle. First and foremost, simply being out, and people call this moon bathing, but at this point for me, it's not so much moon bathing as much as being out underneath the dark sky when the stars are out. So maybe we can call it star bathing, star gazing, right? What I have found is that when my body specifically, and I do notice this in a lot of women because we are very receptive to the darkness, and this is part of woman wisdom, the fact that the divine feminine, when she sits in her darkness, she's actually becoming more receptive, and she is anchoring into her substance, into her being. So what I find is that simply sitting outside underneath a night sky is really powerful and really healing to my body. And when I don't do that for an extended period of time, I notice my body take effect. Like, my cycle shows me, my charting practice shows me that my body is not on point, right? The cervical mucus changes, the emotions changes, the mental patterns change. So I have found that moon bathing or stargazing is really powerful when we're talking about balancing the womb and keeping a really healthy womb cycle. Tip number 2 is actually accommodating your workouts to the season of your cycle. And I say this because I'm a fitness addict. I don't want to say addict because that sounds bad, but I like to work out every single day. I love movement more, especially than calling it a workout, okay? But what was happening is that I was stuck in the workouts that I know. And when I was doing that every single day of my cycle, in certain times of my cycle, my body was being very thrown off because I would push myself thinking, don't be mentally weak, don't be physically weak, you have to train yourself, X, Y, and Z. And actually what was happening was I was causing so much physical and energetic strain on my body that it was taking effect into my cycle. My hormones were being thrown off and my cycle was off. So what I started doing was becoming a lot more receptive to not even the inner season that's happening in my body, but what my body actually craves in regards to movement. And I find this to be so amazing because when I get the tough workouts, I really go hard and I love them. But when I get to do something a lot softer like Pilates or yoga, by the way, those are not easy. They're just less strain and stressful on the energetic body and the physical body. But when I shift my workout according to what is happening in my body and according to what my chart is saying, because remember, you may be ovulating, but if your physical body is out of whack and energetically and hormonally, you're not being shown that you're ovulating other than your chart, you need to treat your body as what it's telling you. And your body's not telling you that it's ready to ovulate and go hard. It's telling you that it needs to be taken care of and actually be nurtured and nourished in different ways. So this was so hugely eye-opening for me because on top of the workouts, I also experienced a lot of connection to cosmic gateways. And this is just an example for you, but understanding your body at a much deeper level and understanding what strains your body and then navigating from that place and understanding that, oh, my chart is telling me that this is the season I'm in, but this is what my chart is telling me. My hormones are telling me this and my energy levels are telling me that. So I wanted to go for a sprint, but I can't do that today because that's not going to help my hormones. I need to do something else. And that has really shifted and actually healed not only my relationship to my body and my womb, but it's actually created this beautiful, very powerful, intuitive flow that I believe is inherent in all women and men, but we're all getting there. So changing your workout according to what is actually happening in your body and according to what your charting practice is telling you has been profoundly life-changing and healing to my cycle and my womb. So try that out. And by the way, little note on that, the ego might push you against it, right? So like you want to go do a hardcore, crazy sprint, weight training workout, but your body hormonally is not able to keep up with that. So that's now like the next level, right? Like now we're talking about the ascended rose path and like the divine feminine and ascension. Like, is this my ego? Is this the divine feminine? Is this like, what is it that's coming up for me that I'm not allowing myself to honor the process in my body? And instead I have to go into this, go-getter, into this different side of me that is not healing and beneficial to my body and my womb and the wisdom of this sacred temple that I have, that I call my body. Okay, so that's just a little bonus side point. All right, and so last one, and this is probably, I don't want to say it's the most powerful, but it's very powerful. I think all of these practices are really powerful and they've taken me quite a long time to figure out, but actually creating a relationship with your blood, like creating a relationship while in winter with the blood that's coming out of your body. And I have heard so many women talk so bad and down on the blood that our body sheds, and yet that's the divine magic of menstruation. The actual blood that holds our DNA, that holds our memories, that holds such a very high frequency that by actually even thinking of throwing it down the toilet, it's like stepping on your divine feminine, basically, like shutting her down, because this is such a divine gift that we have. And if you're not bleeding, then you can have a sacred ritual around the moon. I always say that. But specifically if you're bleeding, to treat your blood as sacred is so divine and so beautiful. And we touch deeply upon that in the Woman Wisdom Mentorship course. But understand that we have to heal our relationship to our blood. And a very beautiful way to do that, well, first and foremost, you might already know, using a diva cup is a really easy way to gather your blood. And so the question is, what are you doing with that blood, right? Being able to have just a moment, do you even look at it? You can have a profound experience by simply holding the diva cup and sitting in silence with it, with the blood inside, right? And just looking at it, like to see it. Because as a humanity and even as women, we haven't seen our own blood. We haven't looked at it. We shun it. We throw it down the toilet. We pretend it doesn't happen. And yet it's such a vital sign of our wellness, of our well-being, of our connection to the divine feminine, of life and death. It's a representative of so much. So to start creating a relationship with your blood and never throw it down the toilet, but instead create a ritual to give it back to the earth, or to do something sacred and beautiful with it, is divinely healing. And what I have found is that the more you do this, you're actually shifting and affecting the energetic field of your body, the biomagnetic energetic field of your body and your womb. And I feel it when I do these practices. You might feel chills all over your body. You might feel your blood pressure just drop, and like you begin to really anchor into the wisdom of what it is to be a woman, to bleed, to have a menstrual cycle, to have a womb. So I think a huge part of us, really beyond the natural birth control, beyond creating a wellness routine around our womb, is how are we looking at our blood? Are we honoring it as sacred and beautiful? Or are we doing what the distorted, inverted patriarchal society has taught us to do for far too long? So I open these doors for you, for curiosity, to play around with how to treat your blood, how to treat your workouts, how to treat your stargazing time. And remember to chart it. Remember to make note of it in your charting practice, in your journal, in your track your period journal. And please keep me posted. I would love to hear how these things are taking effect on your body. Okay, see you next time.